Hello everyone and welcome to Trending in My Life. This is podcast 72 and the title this week is Basket or Trolley. When you go to the supermarket, do you use a basket or a trolley? Now, this will probably depend on whether you do a weekly shop, a daily shop, when you run out of food and need a few bits and pieces shop. But I've always been one to use a basket. It's like I can't commit to a trolley because it would be too full, and then because I'm walking or going on public transport, everything would be too heavy and too many bags. So I can understand if you've got a car in the car park and you've got a trolley absolutely overflowing with food that's going to last you like a whole month. And in that way, it might be the decision between basket and trolley was made simply because you were only going to make that one trip. But I think I choose basket, and sometimes I have been in a supermarket where it's so full my arm feels like it's breaking carrying it around, and but I wouldn't, even then I wouldn't go for a small trolley, because there are two sort of sizes of trolleys these days. You can have one that's sort of a flat trolley shelf in front of you, where maybe you could stand up like a bottle of sauce and it would come to the top of the trolley kind of thing, whereas there have always been the very deep trolleys which you can fill with a month's food. And of course the cost of living, a month's food might not be that much these days because you'd be conscious of how much you were spending. But I was thinking about it. I was in the supermarket earlier and I was thinking about whether I've got just a few items or say 10 items. I will always go for the basket. I think it's the convenience. You're walking down the aisle and if you've got a basket on your arm, you can weave in between the trolleys that are blocking your way. And the trolleys have to wait for each other to move or to move to one side. And they're not only shopping, they're negotiating the aisles to get to the items that they want to buy. So I see it as the simpler option if I have a basket. And sometimes when I've been shopping with someone and we're both buying food to take home, we both have a basket instead of a trolley. So yeah, I'm definitely a basket person when I'm shopping in the supermarket. And there have been times more recently where I don't even bother with a basket because I'm just popping in for one or two bits. And I have to say, I'm not a person that likes to plan too far ahead with meals. Sometimes if I'm budgeting and trying to save money, then I will do meal prep, and so I have set meals in the freezer that I can use. But if I'm not doing that, then I like to decide what I want to eat that evening when I actually get out of work, and I'll get off the train and then think, okay, I'll pop into that supermarket or that one, and because you get little ones as well as big ones, and decide what I feel like when I'm looking along in the fridge section, what I want to eat. And yeah, I can't remember buying a month's worth of food. I mean, clearly there were times in my life, but I can't remember. I'm much more a spontaneous food shopper, depending on what I feel like to eat at the time, and that for me feels like I give myself variety. So that's why this podcast is called Basket or Trolley, and it then got me on to thinking of other things which I choose to do one way rather than another way. I was thinking the other day, I wonder what my life would have been like if I learnt to drive and had a car when I was about 20 years old. And how different my life would have been, because I didn't learn to drive. I have had lessons in 2 different countries actually, but never got to the point of having a test. And there wasn't the overriding sense of, oh, I need to finish this so that I can get a car, so that I can do this, that and the other, because I could never afford a car. So it was not an issue for me. But yeah, and some parts of my life I've lived so that I could walk to work. I was living close to work. Other times I've had to get the bus to the next town to work. And never in my lifetime did I imagine I would be going to work on the train and actually taking 2 trains to get to work and 3 trains to get home. That would never have occurred to me during my life, that would be the scenario at a later age. And I don't think that's a choice between this and that. I think that's more circumstances. You change jobs, you change where you live, and you choose the best method of transport for you at the time. So let's think of some other things that I do one way and not the other. When I moved to London, I got my handbag pickpocketed and lost my wallet. And ever since, I've never used a handbag in London. I've always carried a backpack because everything's zipped up inside it. And actually, I like phone and money is always in my inside coat pocket as well. So yeah, that's something that I do. And I find I have got handbags, a couple at least, but I find it really weird to use them now because I'm so used to having a backpack everywhere I go. Even on the weekends, if I'm out filming, it's much easier for me to have a backpack because then I'm hands-free to do things. Although it doesn't have loads of stuff in like my work backpack does. I like a coat with lots of pockets. And ladies, why do manufacturers of women's coats and jackets so rarely put an inside pocket where you can put your phone or your money or whatever, and yet men's coats and jackets always have that? I think it's because the coat people think the women are all carrying those handbags, but you see, not in my case. I have bought a women's coat before and then sewed pockets on the inside so that I had one. But these days I think it's because a lot of coats are pretty gender neutral. I will just go to the men's section and find one that's got a ready-made inside pocket and buy one from there instead, which is what I did at the start of the winter time. I've been very happy with that coat. It was a real bargain as well. It was $16.99 or something like that, but it keeps me remarkably warm. We're in November, but the weather is still doing that weird thing where it goes up to 17 degrees or something in the middle of the day for some weird reason. And but because I go out at 5:30 in the morning, I always need a big coat at that time in the morning. So let me ask you this. Are you a lists person? Lists or no lists? Now, I used to be, I think, really bad at the fact I had to write a list for everything. And then I moved away from that, and I went through a phase of doing lists on my phone in a notes app, and I still do that occasionally, but I tend to do that if I'm travelling and I want to remember something, and I'll do a note rather than a list of things. But shopping lists I still like to have on a bit of paper, because when I'm carrying that basket around the supermarket, if I also have to take out my phone and then have my shopping list up on my phone and then take things off shelves and put them in the basket, and I just don't have enough hands. Whereas somehow having a bit of paper is fine because, you know, the screen doesn't go black and because I haven't pressed it. And so yeah, I still like a piece of paper. But this weekend I was out I think it was yesterday, and I lost my list because I got it in a small top pocket, and as I pulled out my gloves, I lost it. At least I imagine that's what happened, because it was there and then it wasn't. So yeah, I was on Oxford Street this morning because I was filming, I went into central London and I walked along Oxford Street, down Regent Street, along Carnaby Street, and then through to Covent Garden, back along the Strand to catch a train. And so I was right in central London, but it was a Sunday and I was in there by 10 o'clock, and the shops don't open till 11 or 12 on a Sunday, so it wasn't empty, but it was a lot better than it would be when the shops are open and it's very, very busy. And what I noticed was, I haven't walked end to end of it for a while. There are a lot of tourist shops that weren't there sort of 5 years ago, and these are tourist shops with like loads of t-shirts and mugs and keyrings and stuff like that. And at the same time, there used to be 3 huge department stores in part of the street that led up to Oxford Circus, and now there's only one of those left, and the other 2 have been empty for a while, over a year, if not 2 years now. And that doesn't do any favours to the street, because if you've got 2 whole blocks where it's just an empty building basically. And I thought how it used to be great when there were 3 department stores in a row where you could go up, 5 levels, and they'd have departments for everything from clothes to electronics to makeup, food, and it was just great to be able to go from one to the other. And especially at this time of year with people looking for party outfits for Christmas, you could just go in those 3 stores and you would be bound to find what you were looking for because they had so much. I mean, sign of the times and changes and stuff. Yeah, so I still am a lists person, but not to the degree I used to be. And I do love to go out shopping without a list. I mean, if I have a list with me, it tends to be basic household stuff that we've run out of and I need to remember to replace. It doesn't tend to be anything fun. It's just things that I have to remember. But yeah, to go shopping, there's different kinds of shopping, isn't there? I mean, you can go shopping, say, with the aim of getting a Christmas party outfit, and that's your goal, but you don't really know what colour it's going to be or what style it's going to be. There's quite often that thing where you'll know when you see it, it'll speak to you. You'll see an outfit and think, that's just what I'm looking for. So when I was in Central this morning, and what I noticed was Christmas is almost in the shops. And by that I mean some of the displays have started, big displays in windows, but I can see that they're not quite finished. And when I went to Covent Garden, there was a Christmas tree up with no decorations on, a huge Christmas tree, and I've never actually seen it like that. I've always seen it decorated, so that was a first, and there aren't many firsts when you've lived in London 15 years now. So going back to baskets and trolleys, have you been Christmas shopping and piled a trolley high with gifts yet? You would be able to do that. I mean, I was in a supermarket yesterday morning, a big supermarket, and they have sections for, his and her gifts. Certainly toys-wise, there was a lot of Santa cuddlies and games for Christmas and stuff like that. So you could definitely start to do that. I celebrate Thanksgiving, and there has been lots of years when I don't want to deal with Christmas till after Thanksgiving. But I've discovered over the years that just makes it very, very hard for me because it's too close to Christmas. It's the last Thursday in November, and then you're left with 4 weeks till Christmas, and it's just not enough. So I don't do that now. Well, I know this podcast this week has been a bit random and rambly, but that's pretty much how I feel right now. So if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and come back next time. Bye for now.